one more question about Into the Little Hill. This, there's been a lot of performances of this opera. It's been hailed as one of the great new operas. It's an opera. It's almost a compact. It is a compact opera. It's a full opera with only 2 singers sing all the roles, 35 minutes, and it's the Pied Piper.
Story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, told in a fairly contemporary way, with the crowd, the minister, the Pied Piper, his child, his wife, and 2 narrators, not 1, 2 narrators, all played by 2 women. And the women who are going to be performing it are the 2 that I'd like to say more than I wrote it for them, I designed it for them. I sculpted it for them. These are 2 voices. One is the Finnish soprano, Annie Pomsi, who has some extraordinary vocal capacities. Above all, she can sing incredibly high notes, diamond clear and so soft. It's almost like a Martian singing. And then there is Hilary Summers, the British contralto, with a gloriously deep, honey-like voice. And the 2 of them are the only singers on stage, and they have these multiple roles. The text was written by a very celebrated British playwright called Martin Crimp, who I looked for 25 years. I met some very distinguished and interesting people trying to find a collaborator. I'll mention, if you can excuse me, 2. One was Arthur Miller. We met several times. Betty introduced me to, Betty Freeman, when I was one of my more recent trips to Los Angeles, introduced me to a filmmaker who I very much admire, David Lynch. She just got through to him. She didn't know him. She just got through to someone who knew someone who knew him at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By 5:30, she had fixed for him to come and have dinner with us. And Nobu, the restaurant, was full and she got the best table in the house. And so at 6 o'clock, I had this very delightful meeting with David Lynch. And we talked a lot, and then I gave him a CD and I never heard back. But maybe for the best, because at last I think I was ready in 2006 or 2005 when I met Martin Crimp, and he's an incredible musician as well. Really, he's a wonderful pianist as well as an author. And he wrote this very strong and rather it's not a children's story at all. It's a story about the use of music, the manipulation of music, the magic of music. But also it's a story about deception and breaking of promises, and in the end, a tragic outcome. And so it's a serious piece, and it's meant to be quite frightening, and I'm hoping that outside and in the dark, it will be quite scary. The story is told in a very simple, direct way. Modern opera has a problem with people acting as if they're natural. It doesn't seem right, at least to me, a lot of the time. Here, the story is being narrated by these 2 women from the start, and therefore there's no problem. It's very, very simple, and the idea is that there's 2 things that are important, that you, the listeners, imagine what's being told. There are no rats on screens or even crawling around the stage. They're described, a little bit of detail in the music might suggest them, but above all you have to imagine. And the other thing is that interests me about the text is that the narrators, as they start the tale, they start it in a very objective, cool way, as if they're doing some sort of ceremony. Yes, yes, yes. And then the story is so involving that they get emotionally involved. And by the end of the work, at one point, one of the narrators, just before she describes the anguish and desolation of the mothers wailing that they've lost their children, she breaks down and can't speak anymore. So there's 2 narrative evolutions, the story itself and the telling.